It's great to be a part of this event. As you know, Argano has Netlogistik now as part of our family, and we're thrilled to have them, and it's great to be here. This is our first time being at this event, and what a great event it is. I understand it's been 3 years in a row, so it's really great to be here and learning from a lot of folks last night and even today. You've had a chance to meet me, but I wanted to have you a chance to meet my colleagues, so why don't you take a moment, Josh, and introduce yourself.
Yeah, thanks, Dave. I'm Josh Kloehn. I'm our Boomi practice lead at Argano. I've been doing Boomi data integration projects for about 8 years. Funny enough, they've all landed in the supply chain space. Not 100%, but the heavy majority of them.
Well, that's great. And not far from Minneapolis, right? Minneapolis based, so.
Yep, Minneapolis based.
Glad you can make the journey. So as mentioned, we're not able to give the name of the client we're working with, but trust it's a large global footwear company that has got their start here in the US and is growing outside the US rather rapidly. So what we thought we would do is take some time to chat through sort of some of the things it's been a 3-year journey with this client to get them where they are today. We'll talk through some of the issues that we've had to go through together around their e-commerce use, and we'll talk through the platforms that they've chosen, the challenges that they've had, the technical architecture that Josh and his team have put together for them. We'll talk through the business lessons we've learned, and if there's some questions, certainly we'll take those as well. There have been a lot of questions today. I thought before I begin, I might take a moment to say, who is Argano? We are not Argano or oregano, but you're welcome to call us that if you like. It's Argano. The business is about a $650 million business today, and we're continuing to grow. Probably soon, within the next 24 months or so, we'll be close to $1 billion, a few more acquisitions to help shape out our capabilities. But we are a professional services firm that's focusing on helping high-powered organizations really make this transformation from where they are today and where they want to go. And so these are some of the capabilities we have around strategy, which I sort of alluded to earlier in the presentation I was in earlier, the design pieces, the delivery capabilities around strategy and consulting, performance consulting, AI, data integration, enterprise technology, and managed services. And so in this particular use case that we're going to talk through, we're providing a lot of these cases and capabilities with them now. Again, I've talked a little bit about kind of the areas that we focus in on, but certainly around these domain technologies is where we have expertise. And so we help clients, not always around all of those together. In this case, we are, but we also have many industries that we focus in on as well. And we're very proud of the partnerships that we have, including the ones we have here with our partnerships here. This is a part of the practice that we oversee. This is a capability we have we call Connect. It is a part of a team that works together with ERP, it works together with HCM, it works together with a variety of different capabilities where we are bringing connection, cleverly enough, where we're helping with the use cases around integration, and I got cloud and AI and data, and that's really what we're going to be talking about here in a moment, of how we brought all those pieces together. The wheel in the middle really is where we overlay across the value chain of inside businesses. So most of our clients are doing some degree of commerce, revenue, HCM, ERP. Our team overlays across that and really helps drive that connection and unlock value sitting in this siloed data across the organization and bringing analytics and data to the equation. So as was mentioned, this is a global footwear company. This is an organization that, as was introduced, was in the midst of flying the aircraft while also doing massive transformation. And Josh, I know that part of the things that they were trying to overcome is they were using SAP Business One to help them historically, but they were making a transition into S/4HANA. They had made a selection of Boomi to be their iPaaS application to run and integrate the business. They had some systems in the business that were being sunsetted, and so they had to think through what that roadmap was going to be and what timeline those were going to sunset. They were onboarding a third-party business partner in the UK, all simultaneously. They had returns and refunds enhancements that they had to contemplate and look for systems to help drive that. And then EDI and wholesale expansion. All of that was what you helped them with. Anything you want to add color to on any of those?
I think the big thing with any logistics, any supply chain company is that you've got an endless stream of acronyms that you're working with, right, both on the software side and on the business side, different 3PLs. You've got your SAPs, your ERPs, WMSs, everything in the mix there. And I think a lot of clients have sort of two competing goals, maybe not in conflict with each other, but competing for your attention. So we had core technology requirements where, for instance, you mentioned Business One. They had completely outgrown the platform. They were telling me that they measured page loading times in minutes, which is never a metric you want. They were moving to a modern iPaaS system, and then at the same time, they've also had other core components of their systems be sunset, which means that you're having a pretty large amount of technical problems driven by factors outside of your control. But on top of that, they had multiple business goals that they wanted to achieve. They want to still be able to maintain and onboard 3PLs. They did get to returns and refunds, and actually we talked a little bit about that earlier, how that doesn't get as much focus, even though it's a large portion of the supply chain. I think we very much found that to be the case here, is there's just a lack of automation, a lack of inventory tracking. They really just let the 3PL handle it all, but financially, inventory-wise, it was all manual processes. We came in and improved that a lot. And then EDI and wholesale is really about laying the groundwork to continue opening up new revenue channels and new integration opportunities.
Josh is being quite modest. I think when we entered the relationship 3 years ago, they were, as you said, consultant heavy. There were a lot of other partners in there besides us, trying to help them navigate where they wanted to go. And so part of what we had to do is wrangle all that and put together a roadmap. They couldn't consume it all at once, but we had to help them kind of think through what can be tackled over some time period, as well as the platforms that they'd already chosen, how to get out of old ones and get into new ones. So there's a lot of things to juggle, and I think you took an MVP sort of approach.
Yes, yeah, essentially what Dave mentioned, consultant-heavy environment. So you've got a lot of different people that aren't always business stakeholders in the same way, and you've also got those different relationships to navigate. So what we wanted to do is really help the business put a roadmap together that included and worked with all these different organizations in order to maintain momentum, and that was via delivering an MVP and quickly iterating on it to solve pain points. So we kind of took two approaches. One was our delivery approach, iterative development, really making sure that we took the time to create a solution, but we were also constantly being critical of those solutions, evaluating changes that needed to happen in order to really eliminate pain points. Version 1 of our order sync, if there are 10% of orders that are missed, that needs to be resolved, and we would go through and very quickly be able to iterate on that using a platform like Boomi. We also went with a number of microservices to really streamline our integration topography, looking at SQS and S3 primarily for support for event-based integrations with Shopify, which hugely cut down on our need to do bulk queries and limited or reduced the amount of delay in any data moving between applications.
Honestly, let me pause you on one of those because I think as you look on the right-hand side of the slide, Shopify certainly was in place. A lot of this running in the cloud environment with AWS. You mentioned Boomi and SAP. Some of these platforms had, like for example, I think Shopify had acquired a piece of technology that was actually then set to be sunsetted. And so that had to be thought through. What do we do about that and how do we accommodate that?
Yeah, exactly. So we had, interestingly, they had Shopify, but they actually had another application that did a lot of their order management, including DOM and stuff like that. So you actually have, now you've got Shopify where your order is being placed, but you've also got another system where your orders are actually being routed to different 3PLs. Obviously, that starts to run into issues. Shopify doesn't know where orders are going necessarily. You're starting to accumulate tech debt in a scenario like that. And we had the interesting challenge of all these tools are different, and with that, they all have different development approaches. Shopify is, if anyone's worked with it, it's a rapidly innovating platform that will deprecate something and say, cool, this is gone in 12 months, good luck. SAP is kind of on the other end of the spectrum, much more mature platform that it's going to be around for an extremely long time. You're still using iDocs in a number of cases. So really what we wanted to do is build architecture that was scalable to that and also built in enough flexibility in order to react quickly to an application like Shopify changing while making sure that we maintain stability on the SAP end. So part of that was making sure that our Boomi process architecture was scalable, compartmentalized enough that we could move pieces in and out as these applications changed. We also built out a Shopify fulfillment service where we deployed an API for 3PL fulfillments. That reduced the amount of effort to add a new 3PL, I would say 50%. Previously, it had been done via their old OMS. We were able to bring that into the client's own Boomi environment and quickly scale that up. And then just low-code engineering principles. Boomi is a low-code platform, but at the end of the day, it really needs a good technical approach. I would say that coding principles apply 95% to best practices, and we really made sure to enforce and do that approach. There aren't guardrails in Boomi, so it's kind of stuff you have to set up yourself.
We were fortunate enough to have team members that could complement what Josh is doing around commerce, certainly around, he's the practice leader for us around integration in Boomi, but also around SAP and S4HANA and understanding those. That was the value that I think we brought to them, is to give them the consulting they needed. I mentioned earlier in the discussion that I was in around optimizing, modernizing, or then rationalizing. And that's part of, I think all three of those apply here. We had to help them think through, how do you optimize what you already own? How do you then begin to modernize the platform, which is what you help them do here? And then where do we need to rationalize? You mentioned getting rid of some platforms that just weren't using and taking advantage of getting rid of some technical debt. So as you walked through this, what were some of the, can you elaborate on some of these things around the debt, around the partnership onboarding, and around how do you future-proof it for them to grow? Because they were growing rapidly here in the US, but now they wanted to expand outside the US.
Exactly, yeah. So we, really through being iterative with our approach, we're able to quickly address technical debt. I think that was a big thing. Sometimes the technical debt lives in the big, scary integration that no one wants to touch. We made sure that we were iterating on these constantly enough, and also because Shopify is an evolving platform, reviewing the changes to the platform to identify where we can improve our data integrations. That means, moving to events where previously had been a bulk sync or something like that. Really just the goal is continual improvement, continual iteration. Any change that we've made isn't permanent and set in stone.
From the moment that we made a decision with the client that we wanted an MVP approach to getting them to that was, I think that first release was 5 months?
Yeah. So they were able to, the big first step was an ERP modernization. So we mentioned how Business One just did not scale their needs. We were able to go in there via Boomi, and I think we came in a little later than they would have liked. We weren't able, they hadn't found a Boomi partner for a while. So we came in there and were live in time for Black Friday, Cyber Monday, which was huge because their old system was just completely buckling under the weight. They couldn't handle the volume of orders. It would lead to months of true-ups.
I got to imagine in making a decision when we started this to making sure that we got to the point probably late October or maybe September for code freeze and get ready for the season, that you were kind of contemplating, how do we make sure we remove the risk? How do we mediate that risk for Black Friday? Can you talk through sort of how we went through that and how we got there?
Yeah, so I believe the original go live was actually in September. So this was all, these new integrations were in place. The new ERP was in place around September. We quickly identified any business critical fixes that needed to go in order to support Black Friday. And again, that came with the iterative approach of like, what's critical, what is needed to keep the business afloat, what's nice to have, what's going to earn you more revenue in the long run, really working with them collaboratively to figure out that approach. Because often you get, again, with a competing interest, right? You've got we want to do this in order to earn more revenue, and sometimes any organization, you suddenly hear that they've rolled out new, customization or something. You can now embroider your name on any items from them, something like that. And maybe the technical team hasn't been consulted. We certainly ran into that on this project. And I think the big thing was, again, we're able to be flexible and work with them on that roadmap.
I know that we've mentioned as a part of this use case, and I know that we have 3PL in the room, what was the integration and what was the dialogue and what was the kind of collaboration we had to have with a UK-based 3PL firm that was important to getting this live?
Yeah, so really with any 3PL, you always find different, they all have different APIs and different capabilities. Some are still flat file based. Also, you are dealing with kind of different time zones. You're dealing with a lot of complexities in that area. And what we did with Boomi was we built a core set of 3PL fulfillment integrations, both into and out of their ERP, with the goal being that should their 3PL change, or when additional 3PLs come on, we can quickly build the other half of that without having to go reinvent the wheel. It's just routing data differently rather than building a whole new end-to-end integration. I think we had a lot of success there with that approach.
Well, I know that we're standing in between you and a break, so we're at the home stretch here, but I think there's a lot of lessons learned that we have, and I know that, like I said, it's been a 3-year journey with them, so we've had a lot of iterations since that time, since the first go live, but